Hey, Dr. Trash here, and today I will do my advanced guide of tips and tricks for the units in Tooth and Tail Part 2. I decided to continue this series, and I probably will also do one for each the tier 3 units and the defenses, so make sure you leave a like or subscribe to make sure you don't miss that. By the way, I'm real sorry if I mispronounce some words, since English isn't my mother tongue. But enough for the intro, and let's start with the Freight Union, or the Ferrets. These units carry a mortar on their back, firing cannonballs with an extremely high range and AoE damage. In fact, are the Ferrets the units with the highest range in the game, which makes them excel in harassing your opponent from the distance. Since their attacks have a 2-second delay though, skilled players can kite and dodge those shots, which can make the damage output or DPS inconsistent if trying to hit small numbers of enemies. So try to use your mortar units primarily for sieging. Especially you can counter machine gun nests since you can bomb them from the far while being out of their range. When doing so, make sure you grant vision for the Freight Union, since their vision is slightly shorter than their attack range. Primarily, I would use your character or pigeons for this. Using ferrets can be a real pain in the ass for your opponent since he gets attacked while not having vision on the attacking units, which makes it impossible to fire back. Try this to lure your opponent out of his turtle stand, since going for an offense is his only chance if he minds seeing his building getting destroyed from the far. While having all these benefits, ferrets have a small amount of HP, can't hit air units, which makes them extremely vulnerable against the high DPS from Falcons, and they are worse in full army engagements and become pretty useless when trying to hit small groups of units, so try to counter the Freight Union that way to stop the bombardment on your grist mills. Next on my list is the Trench Gang, aka Chameleons. Chameleons are melee units with a high health pool and traits that make them hit real fast, as well as being able to become invisible. While being invisible, they can't be seen and therefore attacked until they attack a building or found themselves, where they become visible again. After a short time of not attacking, Chameleons enter their stealth again, which makes them extremely effective for sneaky attacks where they approach being invisible, try to knock out some troops, warrens or farms, and then get out of the fight again. The Trench Gang especially excels in fighting defenses, since it can approach without getting hit, quickly bursts a machine gun nest for example down, and then escapes without suffering casualties thanks to the high health pool. Although there is not a lot of counterplay to this, a commander will often give it away, and you can be certain your opponent is trying to approach with Chameleons if his commander is waving his flags next to your buildings, but you can't see an enemy army approaching. But be aware of the possibility that he could just also bait you and lure your troops back while he's attacking somewhere else with his main force. So it's a real mind game, and you always have to be aware of this when playing against Chameleons. By the way, here's some pro tips when fighting against Chameleons. You can detect the Trench Gang when they move through water if you look close enough, since you see little waves moving. Also, if you knock out the commander, Chameleons are easy to finish because their biggest strength, the stealth retreat, is denied. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Trench Gang, since they can be used as assassins but also frontline tanks in the mid or late game, and therefore are very versatile and can fit in each army composition. The Wing Demons or Falcons are the definition of a glass cannon unit. They have extremely high burst damage followed by reload, which is the reason for their strength in short and quick skirmishes. The Falcons are the only air unit that can hit other air units but also ground units, which gives them a lot of versatility. Use the Wing Demons combined with a high ground advantage to benefit from their vision and their range the most. The probably biggest weakness of the Falcons are defenses like the machine gun nest, since they make short work with Wing Demons due to the small health. And a composition, Falcons normally are your DPS backline, which is the reason why they get focused most of the time, so try to position them properly, heal them and protect them with a beefy frontline to use them to their maximum. Apart from that, there's not a lot to say about them, since most is self-explaining and they're not equipped with some fancy traits like the Chameleons for example. The glorious AFB or the Skunks are my favorite units in the game. I mean, a skunk with a gas mask is just as hilarious as it looks badass. But although the lore and the looking is awesome, game-wise the unit actually sucks a lot. In theory, they throw gas canisters that don't do initial damage but create an area of gas that stays for 15 seconds and deals 3 damage a second, so a total of 45. I know that sounds great, but you will never face a player who's dumb enough to do you the favor of standing in a gas field and not moving. This combined with the inability to damage air units, and their weakness in short skirmishes makes them overall pretty weak, and using them feels actually a bit like trolling. The tooth collectors, or snakes, can, as snakes normally tend to do, poison your enemy. Tooth collectors can be used really versatile since they can poison ground and air units as well as buildings and defenses. It is important to know that snakes, each time they make use of the range attack, add a stack of poison on the target, and there's no stack limit. The poison then deals 2 damage per second and can only be cleansed if the unit enters home territory, where the natural healing effect gets rid of the poison. This means snakes should be primarily used to defense, and enemies with stacks of poison have to travel back to the territory if they mind taking infinitive damage, and even if they retreat is the poison often deadly. Besides from their defensive capabilities, snakes also excel in hit and run tactics, since a few stacks of poison followed by a quick retreat doesn't only save your snakes, it often seals the fate for the enemy units or buildings. That's where lizards can be real effective against snakes, since they can catch up and kill retreating snakes thanks to their swiftness trait. When playing against snakes, also try to let your tier 1 units soak up the stacks, since each stack after the first run only lets the unit die faster and therefore is lost damage, so to say. Additionally, 2 pigeons can heal up for 1 stack of poison, so try to have enough of the volunteers to negate the damage of the snakes. That's it already. I hope you liked the second part of my units rundown for Tooth and Tail, and make sure you also check out my first video on the tier 1 units, and if you have any further questions, just write them down in the comments. Also, I would appreciate a like or if you subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.